The Pistons are the basketball champions of the world.
Detroit, it's time. It's playoff time, Detroit. Let's go to work.
Shout out Detroit. I got to buff up, you know what I'm saying? Detroit, I'm all the way in. Detroit Pistons, I'm all the way in. Let's do it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Buffs On Podcast. We are the best POD in the 313. We're coming at you with our third installment of the season previews today. We got the bigs to go over today, only 4 of them. So we'll jump right into it. We ordered these guys based on how we feel are most important. So I guess first and foremost, we're going to start with Jalen Duren. Jalen Duren being selected to the USA Select team along with Cade Cunningham, making waves throughout their time there. The Duren and Cade pick and roll is going to be something fun to look out for, but I'm excited to see what Jalen Duren does this year. His offensive rebounding is obviously a huge plus, so let's see how he improves on the defensive end. Connie, you're first on my screen. What are you going to add here about Jalen Duren?
Well, I think the number one thing that Jalen Duren brings, y'all know how high I am on Jalen Duren. He brings a lot of things. But the number one thing is that rim rolling, finishing around the rim. Like you said, Duren and Cade have been cooking all summer long in those USA scrimmages, the Rico Hines runs. The USA scrimmages, Anthony Edwards was talking about them as a pair. Jalen Brunson was talking about them as a pair recently on the Old Man of Three. JJ Redick, Cam Johnson was talking about how just well they played together. How those two guys are really something. And to me, it's like I've been watching a lot more football recently. So trying to find some analogies, and it's like an elite QB that has his like number one elite weapon. Like here in Detroit, it's like Matt Stafford and Megatron, or Duren is Megatron, and like you just have the orchestrator firing those things up, and he's gonna bring them down. So it's just like skill on both ends of that PNR sort of thing.
How would you feel about a JJ McCarthy and Roman Wilson analogy?
That's they haven't played good yet this season. I want Michigan to be good, but there's been no competition to this point. They played CU for God's sakes.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we're getting off topic. Continue.
I mean, we all know the role. He was. This was a fun stat I thought was that he was 8 in dunks last year, and everybody ahead of him played at least 300 more minutes than him. He's only behind Duren Duren is only behind Giannis in like dunks per minute or minute between dunks, where Giannis is about 10.2. Like every 10.2 minutes, Giannis dunks the ball. Duren is about every 10.7 minutes. So about every 11 minutes of playing time, Duren's throwing one down.
So we can expect 3 a game.
I'm expecting, a significant increase from that even, because we've talked so much about how the point guard play is so vastly improved this year, and you know who's going to be the number one beneficiary of good point guard play is the dude that rolls to the rim every time and yams things through the irons. So I expect that number to go up with Cade coming back as an elite pick and roll guy. Another year of Ivy getting older. They had really developed a good chemistry. I think he's just going to be getting fed from everywhere. And Monty Williams finally has a big man that wants to dunk the ball.
Yeah, and there's obviously going to be those hustle plays where he will run down the floor and get those fast break dunks, and he'll also be crashing the offensive glass for some putback dunks as well. I got a question, but I'll save it until after Gabe goes on Duren. So, Gabe, talk to us about your thoughts on Jalen
Duren. Your last words there, his offensive rebounding. Aside the obvious, what Connie said, that he's just an immense play finisher. I want to see him be top 5 in the league of rebounding this year. He has all the tools. The only thing I could see getting in the way is Stu kind of eating up some rebounds. But I mean, 3 offensive rebounds a game, 9 defensive ones. That's a reasonable goal for him, I think. Clean up after possessions. I feel like that happened a lot last year where teams would just luck into an offensive possession just by bad positioning. But the rebounding, aside from Connie, what you said, and then like we've all said before, him being an impactful rim defender. It's kind of surprising how inefficient he was, or like how often he wasn't there to swat a shot, I thought. I think that's just a natural process. He's super young, and I wouldn't mind, and I could see it happening that he fouls more times next year, just being in those right spots and like contesting more shots. But it's a process of his learning, so I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, he's definitely got to be better as a defensive presence. And so the question I was going to ask is, how do you guys feel about Jalen Duren shooting the ball more this year? Whether that be from the mid range off the dribble, spotting up in the corner every now and then. How are we feeling about those things? Connie, your first reaction is
I don't really want to see it because it takes him away from the most efficient spot on the floor for him. I think
Yeah.
every once in a while, a little floater push shot. Because one thing I do think that he's going to be used in is like short roll playmaking, coming off the screen, and then if they blitz Cade or if they try to take the ball out of Cade's hands, playing the 4v3, finding other guys, or in some cases it's going to be taking him himself. And I think he has the skill to make that little touch shot in the mid range. But I know we saw it in summer league. I also saw some clunks. Like if you're not a shooter, like the skill level to be even an average shooter or below average shooter in the NBA is extremely high. And I'd really rather him put those touches to better use. And I think that's how he's going to be used too.
Yeah, and we've touched a couple of times on how he's good with finishing with either hand around the rim. So I get what you're saying. Gabe, your thoughts on the jumper?
Um, there's always it's never bad to have a little bit of just like I don't know if the play breaks down, he finds himself in the corner after like an offensive rebound and just, hit that shot. I don't want any plays drawn up for it, but sometimes basketball just flows in a way where he'd have that open shot and he should be able to make it if he continues to play how he did in the summer. But Connie, that's a great point. That's a huge aspect of being like an unstoppable offense is having that option, the playmaking out of the advantage in the pick and roll. That's what we saw Jokic do to a title. Like, and I think he does have the player comp if he can up that scoring because well, I don't think he kind of has the mold of like that Andre Drummond floater game where just like he like leans into the guy and it looks weird and doesn't go in a lot. But
He
I have
has a
more hopes
lot.
in him.
He has a lot better touch than
He
Andre
does.
does.
He does.
Like he is much better with like you saw in the hook shots a little bit last year, the finishing with both hands around. He I don't know. I don't like the Andre Drummond comps. They make me scared. So I just like to deny it as much as possible.
I'm still on the Bam Adebayo comp train. I
That's
think
Yeah,
that's like
yeah.
that's the ceiling. That's the dream right there.
kind of like thinking of that. If he's more of a scorer in a way where he just like takes a player off the dribble, like with a quick like dribble move out of the post or like the high post or like a mid-range touch rather than putting it up, just using his speed and athleticism, get straight to the rim against like I don't know, Mason Plumlee or something. Like there's no way he can stay in front of him.
Lower footed big, yeah, for sure. But you said top. I said he might lead the league in rebounds if he plays 30 to 35 minutes a game.
He
Like
could.
he's a dog.
Any other thoughts on Duren before we move on to the second big we got on our slate
Oh
tonight?
yeah.
Any awards you could see him collecting, or
Mm,
just
Not
be a
this
good
year.
player?
I
Just
think
be a
he's a
good
good
player.
player. I think because he's not. I don't think he's going to make an all defensive team. Well, he has all the tools to play good defense, like you said. He's just oftentimes like a little out of position, a step slow, a second late, a little bit out of the spot, not really locked in defensively, which is totally fine because he was the youngest player in the NBA being asked to anchor a defense surrounded by other bad defenders. Uh, so I expect that to really improve. One thing that he did do really well on defense last year, which is just fantastic modern NBA, makes you think about Bam Adebayo, is switch out onto smaller guys, trap smaller guys. There's a couple times where he would be out with the point guard, trapping the guy at half court, and he has the ability, like in the foot speed, to cover the ground to get back. So he does a lot of good things, and like I've said 100 times, that he's a skilled playmaker, skilled passer, great hands.
So by that, you'd be okay with the defensive strategy of like having a hard hedge with Duren at the big, who hedges out and then has to get back to his man. You said with foot speed.
Yeah, I think the beauty of it is that you can do so many things. You could have him in a drop and just wait for the guy because he's going to spring up. You could have him in a straight up switch sometimes, hard hedge. You can do a lot of things, and that kind of mirrors other guys on this team. So I kind of like the defensive build that's coming in. One thing that I wanted to look out for in the defense was fully embracing the role. That was a big thing with Drummond, was not fully embracing the role, like realizing that the greatest journey to success is doing what the team needs him to do. Like he was shooting some jumpers in summer league and like handling the ball, and that's all good and well, skill development, something down the line. But like he's mostly going to be a screener, dunker spot guy on offense, and like shooting jumpers, taking a guy out of the post. Like it'll be a I think should be a little bit rarer of an occurrence.
Amit, do you have any awards?
I don't.
And then
not this year.
Some stuff to you as well.
No, I don't have anything for Duren this year. I think this year is just going to be him being a good player, a good play finisher. Hopefully, it's another year of him improving. I mean, we saw him basically shatter all expectations for the youngest player in the league. I think the last time we had the youngest player in the league, it was Sekou Doumbouya. So now you've got Jalen Duren who comes in and just does what he has to do. So as long as he continues to improve, it'll not only help us succeed this year, but obviously as we move forward in this restoration as well.
Yeah. I don't know if this counts as an award, but I expect him to be on the Rising Stars game. Probably with Jaden Ivey as well.
Oh, big time, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Maybe Asar as well. We didn't touch on that, but I'd expect him there as well.
I think it would be fun. You know, you kind of have like the Cade Bay Stu scenario all over again, where two guys are on one team and one dude's on another team. You just go head to head with your teammates. That's always fun.
Yeah. And then a large part, I think, also what would allow him to be a more versatile defender, kind of be out there on switches. We have that like back line behind him, hypothetically with Stu. So that gives Duren more room to like be a roamer, kind of what, in the playoffs they put like, I don't know, a smaller guy on Jokic and then have like a roamer to try to help at the rim. Duren would excel at that role. We just saw Robert Williams get traded, and literally that's pretty much his entire skill set was being a roaming defender. So if Duren can do that, as well as just being a larger body on the inside, I think he'll have a great year. And that's what I expect, honestly. I think he's gonna have a really good year.
Connie.
You know what? Depending on who plays, I could see him being called up to the Olympic team. Like there's talk. USA has no bigs.
And you got another year from now, and he's the type of big that you would want for that team. Like the problem that team had was defense, or not defense, rebounding was the main thing. Like they
and size,
size, yeah.
Bully, like you're not bullying. It's 2 years from now, Jalen Duren, man. I dare Jonas Valanciunas to try to push him around.
Yeah, and on top of that, he's already met a lot of the guys that were on the FIBA team. So it's like if it's a lot of the same guys, yeah,
and impress them. Yeah,
exactly. Any other thoughts on Duren before we move into the guy that Gabe just mentioned?
Can we move into the guy that Gabe just mentioned? I had a thought off that kind of connects the two guys.
Fire it away.
With Stu, biggest thing is probably defense, and like Gabe said, he's going to be backing up Duren. I think Stu also fits into that mold of the things that I really like that we're building is that there's defensive guys that can play defense in a couple different ways. Like Duren and Stu can really get the same sort of thing done defensively. They do it in ways that look very different. Stu does it more with like long arms and positioning and mad strength, but being able to switch out and being able to be the person that protects the rim. Like you could have it almost be interchangeable with Duren and Stu. Like if Stu is pulling into the pick and roll, Duren's like protecting the back line, helping, and vice versa. But Stu is for sure the most defensively competent guy on this team, I think. Safe to say. Any counter arguments?
No,
No.
not really. I mean, Asar is now on the team, but like
yeah, we'll see. But he's proven
Yeah.
to be defensively competent, and that's just doing it again in a number of ways. Which we should like. You can throw Asar into that too. We got to have three guys that can play all different types of defense in a perfect world, and that's pretty interesting to me. Like as much as like the skills on offense are interesting and how they intertwine and everything, but could make some scary defensive stuff going on, especially with a mind like Monty behind it.
I
Oh,
mean,
for
and even
sure.
Cade as well. He just fits that mold.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like you run out a lineup of like Cade, Asar, Liver, Stu, Duren. Like there's some defensive havoc that can be caused there. And I guess while we brought up his name, report from Sean Murphy saying that Isaiah Livers is injured and may miss the next 6 to 8 weeks. With Pistons Media Day being tomorrow, October 2nd, and our first preseason game 1 week from today, that's a big blow, especially for a young guy that we just talked about on the last pod, needs to stay healthy to, earn his rotation minutes. And it just seems like this kid just unfortunately cannot stay healthy.
Has there been any more on that, or is it just that one tweet that we saw?
It was just that one tweet, but Koo did a Locked On episode about it. Pistons Talk retweeted it, so I'm assuming Sean Murphy used to work for Woodward Sports, so I'm assuming he might have a connection or two. So I don't know how valid it is, but
I guess we'll know
find out.
tomorrow. Either way, media day. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's big for Stu though, because
It
Livers
is.
was probably going to slot in mostly at that backup four, and four in different rotations. So it's going to be a lot more need for Stu to do offensive stuff.
Yeah.
Provide spacing, shoot threes, do some things.
And I
Yeah.
actually think, aside from Cade, that he's the most important player that like impacts our win percentage. Like if he's shooting 38% and being an elite defender, basically, that's a lot of wins. That's really important for this role. His offensive improvement, aside from the shooting, actually, we talk a lot about his like weird kind of bad finishing at the rim. He kind of throws it up there sometimes. It's year
Yeah.
4 now. I want to see if he's gonna get under more control and increase his field goal percentage, especially at the rim. Because that's just really nice to have as well. Just someone who will catch the ball and put it up into the rim if it's an easy shot.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching a lot of highlights lately, and like I'm trying to learn more like offensive sets and stuff. So like when you were talking about Duren being a hub offensively, you could run a split action with like Bogey and Duren, where Bogey feeds Duren on the low block and then receives a screen moving back to the top, and then Duren hits Bogey for a topside triple. Like that could work out because Duren's passing is at that level. And then you could run a double drag with, I don't know, pick your point guard or Asar even if you want to. Asar, Ivy, Cade, Killian if he even gets playing time. And then you have Duren rolling and Stu popping. If Stu is hitting at that 38% clip, that's scary.
That was some stuff. Who was having real success with that? I think it was Washington.
Yeah, I think it was Washington.
Washington was doing a lot of that. And they had Mo Wagner playing a lot of that. And it was always really good. And I didn't think of that. That's a good note.
So this team has so many options. And say you don't want to run it with Stu. Say you want to run that with like Bogey. If you run Bogey at the 4, that's a lot more gravity towards the 3-point line if Bogey's popping on a catch and shoot. What did we say? He hit like 50-something% or 46% on catch and shoots. Like, yeah. I mean, like that's insane. And then you got Duren rolling, who just can jump up to the top of the backboard and just slam it home. Like, there's so many options for this team. So Stu, yeah, if like you said, Gabe, if Stu can hit 3-point shots and can be good defensively, I think that's kind of what I'm expecting from him. The only thing that I'd like to know on the switching everything is like we talked about, Stu is our best rim protector as of today. So having
Yeah.
him switch, if you switch him onto a guard, you lose your best line of defense at the rim unless Duren takes a ginormous step forward. So I like how Stu can stay with guards out top, but I'm hoping that we don't have to do that all the time, so that we still have at least some line before the
Yeah.
Yeah.
rim.
It's the versatility, like the option to
Hmm.
do that, but also the option to do 6 other schemes that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think he's not as versatile offensively as Duren. We saw a few flashes, that pump fake and drive by Embiid, always a highlight with a huge slam. But
There was a
he's
Hornets game too.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
where
done some
Denver, like,
impressive or just straight up weird stuff off
yeah.
the dribble. And like he's had a few good passes. I don't think that's really who he is though. I do think he's more of like a big man, and that's perfectly fine, and just be a shooter. Because I don't think his ability to read is at the level, at least offensively, is at the level that Duren is at. But kind of playing off these, do you expect him to play more of his minutes at the 4 or at the backup 5?
4,
I,
especially to start the season 4.
I think it's 4, and that's why the 3-point shot is like really important. I think it looks better for sure to all of us, and even it looked like the improvement continued into the Rico Hines runs. I don't know how y'all felt about it, but like visually, it looks a lot smoother. It looks like more rotation on the ball, less of that catapult jazz. But he had some good stretches last year from 3 ball as well. He, like, other than January, he shot 11% in January. He was dealing with that shoulder injury that eventually took him out for the season. He was 36% from 3 outside of that, which sounds all right. I think the biggest issue with where I have trouble believing him as a 4 uh, is that he's like 35% or something on. He's like a good shooter hitting with a wide open shot, which is no defender within 6 feet. And then the percentages drop off a cliff when it's like 4 feet. I think it's like 27% with 4 feet, and then much lower with 2 feet or like closed out on. He really has to be wide open, and it changes a lot for like the
The way
position.
defensive play him.
Yeah, the way defense is playing. Like if he can if he can be the same shooter that he is wide open as with a guy 2 feet in front of him, it changes things significantly because it makes the person that's guarding him not be able to just hang down in the paint and be like, okay, I can close out on this 3, and I might be all right with it. So it's a he's gonna have to do it with Livers out, and how well he does it is gonna impact if this is a legit good team or not. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too overly concerned about it as of today because last year was his first year shooting a larger volume 3-point shot, shooting 36% in his first season of shooting volume 3s. I'm just discarding January, like you said, because of the shoulder injury. Is impressive. It's nothing to shy away from. So it gives me more confidence that he is going to be able to do it. And we know his work ethic is just incredible. And like you said, we saw his shot a little bit in the Rico Hines run, and it looked a little more fluid. So as of today, I don't have any reason to not believe in the Isaiah Stewart 3-point shot.
One thing I think that impacts his minutes at the 4 is just the necessity to be the backup 5. I think we'll talk about these guys later. I don't know if there's a reliable option defensively, especially that's behind Duren. So I could see some like lineup staggering just to make sure we always have that one guy at the rim and
Yeah,
being
and
that guy on defense.
there's gonna be a problem if like either one of them, Stu or Duren, gets into foul trouble because then you're gonna have to play one of the guys that we're going to talk about, Bagley or Wiseman, and then you run into
I
all
think
sorts
we're
of
gonna be.
problems.
I think we're gonna be seeing a lot more of those guys than you guys want to see. Like,
I'm fine with seeing
there's
either
still
of them.
guys
I
that
don't hate
are
it.
going to be played and tried out, and like we said with those last 2 guys, all of last week, we couldn't really judge them until we see them with Cade. So I expect both of those guys still to get bites at the apple for sure. So
I
I
like
see him
that.
more as a
Yeah.
4. I definitely see him more as a 4, especially with like Wiseman and Bagley backing up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with seeing him to start the season. Like, it's a new year. You had a full off season to work on stuff. Like, come and show us what you got. If you haven't improved any little bit from last year to this year, then yeah, that's fine. Ride the pine. But I feel like it's fair enough to give every player a shot, especially in the beginning of the season. Preseason, we got 4 games, maybe, I don't know, 10 to 15 games to start the year. Just figure it out. But any other notes on Stu before we dive into one of those two guys?
Yeah, just that he's a dog. He's the lightning rod for this team. The emotional aggressor, a guy that will get things going, and he's always so positive to freaking everybody on our squad, and he's so negative to everybody on everybody else's squad. It's so cool. Like, really, I think it's a great dude to have.
Yeah, he's definitely the heart of the team, I think. And he's like, the spirit of Detroit.
Any other notes on Stu before we move into? I'm gonna leave it up to you guys on who we go to first.
No, I'm good. I say we go to Wiseman first.
Yeah, I
That makes
agree.
sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I think he's gonna get the majority of the opportunities between the two, at least to start. I think the Pistons are really high on James Wiseman, and I don't blame them for being. I mean, his ceiling is up there, so he needs to, like we've talked about on the pod, he needs to be more consistent around the rim. He needs to be better defensively. He's got more question marks than answers at this point, but I'm excited to see what he looks like this year. Like a full off season of knowing he's probably going to get playing time, whether that be at the backup um, five or third string five. Like he knows he's going to get minutes somewhere. So it's just a question of like, and reports say he slimmed down a lot. So there's reason for optimism with James Wiseman. I always start with Connie because he's usually first on my screen for some reason. So let's go with Gabe this time. Your thoughts on Wiseman?
Uh, of the two guys, I do think he's gonna be the one who establishes himself as that next big off the bench. Um, I think it's pretty clear. Most people don't love everything he does. Excess post ups, kind of not be the defender that he could be. Um, but I do think, like you said, he hasn't played a lot of NBA games. He barely played any college games. He's still young, and he has the body and the skills to be a really good five. And I do think he's exclusively going to be the center. I don't think he has that skill set of what Bagley tries to do, which I don't think he has either to be a four in the NBA. Other than that, I don't think he's gonna I don't expect like threes and like cool stuff from Wiseman. I just expect him to be a good backup, solid option at the five, I guess.
Yeah, like a play finisher type guy who just does what he's asked.
Mm-hmm.
Connie, any thoughts on Wiseman?
I pray he does that. Again, a beneficiary of, I think, one of the biggest beneficiaries of improved point guard play on this squad. Not going to have to run it with Killian Hayes. Going to be able to run it with Monty Morris, who is a solid point guard. I like that you said he trimmed down because I think he has another guy on this team that is a really good runner and can really get up and down the floor. Like he's not like the quickest footed guy, but like he's got really long legs, and when he gets out in strides, he can really stride. Like he can really get out there handling the ball or being off of it. I mean, I think the biggest thing for him that would be conducive to success is playing the role. Like Gabe said, excess post ups, doing things with the ball in his hand.
Taking pull up threes. That's the most annoying one.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see. I want to see him set a screen. I want to see him roll to the hoop with his hands up. Because when he did that, he's pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And he's pretty bad at the others. Like he's not a good post player or a good shooter. But he's good.
He's a strong finisher. I gotta give him that. He's a strong finisher.
He brings the ball down. He likes that little power dribble, but
yeah,
lets a lot of people get their hands on it or foul them or poke the ball away. But I'm interested to see what he can do because there is a lot of skill there, and if it's focused and it's applied, could be good. But I could also see Monty Williams being like, "Oh, it's just Ayton but worse."
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
He's just
I don't
Ayton
think he's
with
gonna have a long leash, and I
less
think that's a
skill.
good
Yeah,
thing.
which is what I'm really like. There's a lot of media stuff about like at least on the national level talking about are the Pistons good? They have to make a decision. Are they going to be playing these two big lineups with Duren and Wiseman? And I think I hope Monty Williams is a better basketball mind than the three of us combined
Yeah,
times
there's
10
no way.
for sure. But
Yeah,
it's like, there's no way
yeah.
he doesn't see it, right? There's no way he's like, yeah, this is a good idea. Like he's gonna see it, and if he's
The
not, like you said, short leash.
the sad thing is, I could see like Lawrence Frank doing that, and that's just I think it shows where we've come as a team. We're no longer that team, and so I think there's no way that's happening. Um, Speaking of his speed, you remember that one play in the summer league where he got the rebound and just kind of ran up, and it looked so weird, and then he just tried to dunk with his left hand, and he missed the dunk.
He
It
almost
was
is
Yeah.
so
a big
weird,
guy
but it
though.
looked so good, and he's insanely fast. And that dunk came out of nowhere. So yeah, his fast break, he's just another option. He'll run the floor and he'll beat most players down to the other end.
Especially
If
most bigs if they got to keep up with them.
especially yeah, and if he's I don't know contesting a three, we'll say Stewart at the four, on that switch gameplay, he's out, he's gone, and that's a touchdown pass to him.
Oh, big
Like
time. And we got guards that can make that
yeah,
touchdown pass too.
Cade, Asar, Ivy, Monty, like these are guys that like if you're in the right spot, ball's gonna find you. Like if you're there, you're gonna get hit. You're gonna get easy buckets. So
Is that what like we've talked about what he could do? Is that what you expect? Like
no,
what do you see from this season from him?
I think. Oh, go ahead. Go
no,
ahead,
no, you
Connor.
got it. You got it. You got it.
All right. I think, like you said, short leash. So I think he's gonna be sat down and he's gonna be told, like, look, we love everything you could do, but this is what we need to do. And if he can just wrap his mind around doing what he needs to do rather than what he can do, which is a really big adjustment for any player, like being asked to like Tobias Harris, he's getting sick of it in Philly. Like he's capable of so much more, but he's asked to just be a specific thing. Then Wiseman has a chance to flourish in that role as a play finisher, as a big who can get out and run, beat the other guys back. But if he's gonna just continue to just try to do everything that he wants, thinks he can do, and doesn't show that he can, yeah, I mean he's running out of rope.
Kind
Yeah,
of like the Diallo talk from last year. Like they
Yeah,
had the talk with Diallo, he rode the bench and then he had his role and he played it really well.
just the thing
yep,
that I'd be worried about is the summer workout did come out for him, and it was dribble move mid rangers. You know, like
yeah.
like I think he might be one of those guys that just fancies himself. I'm a scorer. I've always been one. This is what I do. I'm in the NBA for God's sake, top 450 in the world. Uh, I'd be a little worried about it, and then also just being like a half second slow on all the defensive stuff. Like
Yeah,
he should be
and
a much bigger rim deterrent, right? He's
he
7 foot
really should.
with really long arms. Like that's why he gets those weird dunks off. That's why he's almost able to yam it over that guy on the fast break. It's because he's freaky long and gigantic, and he's not a good rim defender for some reason.
I think you just got to teach him the basics. Just like go straight up, jump straight up with your arms up. That's
And
it.
this was
So
another thing with Monty. Also from that podcast with Cam Johnson, where Cam Johnson really broke down like Monty is an incredible teacher. Somebody that like he is really good at teaching people skills of the game and the right way to play the game, and that is one of his strongest assets, along with out of balance plays. But so this is the opportunity for Wiseman, right? This is make or break year, right? We can all say like another year
yeah,
came from him. He's Jahlil Okafor cooking dudes in the post in the EuroLeague.
yeah, it's a big year for James Wiseman. It's a big year for the guy that we're going to talk about next. But I'm rooting for Wiseman. Young kid, never got an opportunity on a really good team. He just landed in the wrong situation. So hopefully he comes into Detroit, thinks it's the right situation, and just takes advantage of the opportunity that he's given. He's got a chance. He's got a chance to prove himself. Detroit's the place to do it. I mean, we embrace pretty much any player that comes through our doors unless they, badmouth it. So Detroit has a loyal fan base until you turn on them, and Wiseman hasn't really given us a reason to turn on him except for terrible rim protection and post position. But besides that, I'm all for the James Wiseman experiment. Gabe, any other final thoughts on Wiseman before we move into Bagley?
Nope, nothing for me.
All right, so Marvin Bagley. What's to say about Marvin Bagley that we haven't already said about James Wiseman? Marvin Bagley's a lot better of an offensive big as of right now than James Wiseman is, both former number 2 overall picks. Given a chance in Detroit, we talked about how we can't write off these bigs until we've seen them play with Cade. We saw Bagley play with Cade, and we saw Bagley. What did we say he was doing? He was doing 20 and 10. So it'll be fun to see if that connection still exists and if it still works. But I started with Gabe last time. So Connie, talk to us about what you think about Marvin Bagley.
Yeah, exact same notes for Marvin Bagley as for James Wiseman. He's not a shooter. He's not a mid-range playmaker. He's not a playmaker. He's a play finisher. And the reason I have some hope for him, and I think he might play more than we think he's going to play, is because when Cade was on the court with him, he really embraced that role. He wasn't around for the beginning of the season this year, was he? Or am I tripping? He wasn't?
He was.
He was? Okay. Anywho. He's had some there was that game, I think it was against, I want to say Indiana, but I could be wrong on that, where it was a pretty big Pistons comeback, and it was powered by a lot of Cade to Bagley late game dunks. When Cade was off the floor and it was more of the Wild West in terms of power, we getting buckets, did a lot of stuff and not very well. We went over last year those Wiseman and Bagley post up numbers. But he has shown a willingness to, when there is a point guard in there, he knows I know how to get my bread buttered. Like, I know how to set this screen and roll to the hoop. I know how to cut in off the side. I know how to get these dunks and these layups off of these other good playmakers. So that's why I'm not super worried about him. Honestly, defensively, obviously, there's things to be wanted. He's not quite fast enough to be a switch guy. He's not quite big enough to be the at rim, or willing, I guess, even, or able to be that at rim deterrent. So I feel good about his offensive game. I feel really good about his offensive game this year, actually. I think he's going to fill into that role and be a guy for us. And another guy who can run and grab and go.
Yep. Yeah, I think we've talked about it before. Like, this team is perfect for like a transition, fast-paced style of play. Like Ivy, Asar, Cade's great in the fast break. Bagley can get out and run. Duren can move a little bit. Stu can sprint down the floor. Wiseman can run a little bit. Like, this team and Bogey is just great as like a trailer. Just pop it back to Bogey, he'll hit a triple. So there's tons of options for this squad. Gabe, your thoughts on Bagley?
Yeah, like we've been saying, I think we kind of know what he is. He could improve his percentages. I don't think he's gonna change his game really in any way. And I just remember a quote from Greg Kelser last year, and when we had the thought in Isaiah's rookie year, if him and Bagley, or like sophomore, if one of them could play the 4, and it's kind of consensus that it would be Bagley. And then he just didn't develop the 3-point shot really, which is kind of stopping him. And I don't like his form. I don't think he's going to be making a lot of threes this year, and I think that's really going to limit his place in the offense, aside from being a roller. But then again, like Connie said, if he's the roller, he has to be the big man on defense, and can he do that? I think of the players we have, he's most likely to be gone gone at some point this season. Just because I don't see him slotting in at the 4, and I think Wiseman's going to earn his spot at the backup 5. I do think he'll have an NBA career, just not
Makes
with
sense.
us.
Just not with us. But we said a lot of bad things about Wiseman and Bagley. But if you put Wiseman, Bagley, and Duren up against any other trio of bigs in the league, you're probably not gonna find a more athletic trio. I can't think of
Yeah.
one. Like, if you could, like, if Wiseman and Bagley just embrace this role of like, we're more athletic than you, we can do things that you can't, and just do that. There's sky's the limits for those two, for sure. Connie, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts not on these guys, but two current NBA free agents that I think could slot in on this team if we decide to cut bait from some of these guys, or make a trade where we combine a couple guys into one guy. One is for the 4 spot, with livers down. We want a little more size, a little bit more shooting, a capable forward. JaMychal Green, still a free agent. Had his woes, but he's an NBA
He's
player.
pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's pretty solid. Could fit into that 4 if we need like a guy who could play 4 that could actually shoot the ball.
He's kind of a Monte Morris of being the 4. That's kind of his role. He doesn't really do anything bad.
Yeah, I'm sure we would love him here in Detroit. And the other guy who Monty Williams has had some success with playing with a pick and roll point guard is Bismack Biyombo. Also currently a free agent, could play that more of a rim rolling center that is absolutely willing to block shots and play defense on the interior. If we eventually move on from a guy like Bagley or Wiseman in a trade for maybe a smaller guy.
I would kind of like a Bismack Biyombo and like a Rodney McGruder role. Like, you just ask him to come in whenever, but rather than that, he's like a vet that just teaches the young guys. I think that would be a nice role for him on this team.
Yeah.
If he would be willing to do that.
If you were playing like 2K franchise, my league, you could set Bismack Biyombo to like train Jalen Duren.
Yeah.
The defensive rim protection badges.
Yeah.
So if it's an accurate simulation, I think we should sign Bismack Biyombo.
It is, and I think the 3 of us combined are a great 2K GM. But any other thoughts on the 4 bigs that we mentioned today?
I've mentioned this guy before. He's not one of the 4 names we talked about, kind of in that Biyombo role. Andre Drummond. I think he's changed his mentality. He had that video come out with those kids that I saw, and I think he's just a good player. Being a backup role, playing that role. I still think he's an immense rebounder, and he's become a better defender. I think he's better than most people think of him now. He kind of took a nosedive, deservedly so, but now I think maybe Detroit isn't good for him, but maybe, he gave us what, like 8 good years, something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know how long
I
he's
see what you're
actually on the
saying.
team.
Still doesn't like make layups though, and that's the issue. Like, he's at a mental change. Like, his skill level hasn't really like gone up tremendously.
But I think that's okay with a big man. Like, I don't know. We'll see. If not, watch out for him having a big year this year in Chicago, if that's the team he's on. And I guess we haven't really talked about them as on the preview, but a huge part of this team is Coach Monty, and just having a different look offensively, a smart, modern look on this NBA team, an NBA brain, and a coach's player. I think that's a huge part. We've talked about it before when he came. He's just a great guy. Like Connie said earlier, about what Cam Johnson said about him, just to be able to be a teacher for this team. Casey was kind of the dad of the team, and now we need a teacher for us to be a good team. And I think him, along with our front office, I'm a huge fan of keeping Casey in-house. Tom Gores has proven he's willing to spend money. I just think we're in position to have a great season next year, but basically from all sides.
Yeah, if everything breaks right for us, like, we have all the pieces of being a really good team, a really good franchise in the future. But any other thoughts on the Pistons, and then we can do a little NBA talk?
No.
All right. Well, I'm a Tigers fan, so before we get into the Damian Lillard trade and the Drew Holiday trade, I just have to say, for all my Tigers fans out there, I think we can all say thank you to Miguel Cabrera. A wonderful career coming to an end today. Just probably the last icon Detroit will see for a long time, not only in baseball, but we got to wait to see who the next Detroit icon is. Is it Cade? Is it Goff? I don't watch the Red Wings, so I don't know who the next icon there would be. But thank you to Miguel Cabrera for an amazing career and giving your time to Detroit after being traded here. You got me into baseball, so I appreciate it. I'll step out my box now. You guys, what do you think about the Damian Lillard trade? I think it impacts the Pistons a lot. We went from maybe we could kind of, sort of, maybe squeak out a win against the Bucks to like, no, we're screwed. So I think those are at least 3 to 4 L's every year that we're gonna have to catch while Dame and Giannis are still there.
Yeah, I feel like Drew Holiday always killed us though. Always made life.
Sure, yeah, but I feel like Dame could kill us more. Like Dame is Dame.
Watch our defense freak out with a Dame Giannis pick and roll, man. That's not.
Oh my god, it's gonna be brutal. Even if you just feed Giannis in the post, like you can't double off of him because they will set a back screen, get Dame open for a triple. You also got Chris Middleton who's still out there who can do his thing. Lopez is still there. Yeah, exactly. So
did the Bucks mess up though? Because now the other best team in the East has the best player that you could possibly want for containing Damian Lillard.
I mean, can the Bucks do anything about that? They made a move to try to like improve their team, you know.
If you were the Bucks and the basketball gods came to you and were like, "Hey, would you like Drew Holiday or Damian Lillard? Who are you taking?"
It's a Dame.
You just gotta take Dame, right? So you can't really say the Bucks screwed up. They just took.
I do think they got better.
And if you take Damian Lillard, your biggest competitor gets Drew Holiday. It's just I know they would do it again, but those are going to be some fun playoff series and games.
Oh, big time. I also feel like Boston, like their second unit is significantly weaker now. Like you don't have Malcolm Brogdon, who was the 6th man of the year candidate, coming out, and didn't he win 6th man? I don't even remember.
He has in the past.
Yeah, right. He did too, right? Yeah, like you got a 6th man of the year now gone, and your bench is not going to be as strong as it was last year, which was one of your strengths. So your starting 5 is pretty dang good. I mean, Holiday, Brown, Tatum, Horford, KP. That's not a bad 5 to roll out there. But I still don't think can Boston contain Giannis? I don't think. I think that's the problem. Right.
But they also now have like the glaring defensive hole that Boston can attack every time down. Like Damian Lillard is going to be. They're going to have the heat-seeking missiles. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, always looking for that switch every single time.
That's why you got Giannis and Brook Lopez behind him, though.
Yeah. I watched the video. I think it's from B-Ball Breakdown, and like one of the Bucks' biggest problems over the last few years of contention, except for the year where they won the title, is that they suck in clutch time, and that hurt them a lot down the stretch last year, especially. And then you bring in a guy like Damian Lillard, who is just synonymous for like doing the clutch thing and one of the clutchest players in the NBA. So and like you guys mentioned, that pick and roll is going to be a nightmare for anyone to guard. So it's going to create a fun matchup atop the East for sure.
Portland
also pretty yeah, I was going to say, I think Suns are the only team that got fleeced in that trade. Oh, yeah. Everyone else is well off.
Do you think they really are they expecting Nurkic to start at the 5?
Yeah, who else?
Like when it's
Jock Landale.
When it's winning.
No, he's in Houston now.
Oh, who's their backup 5?
I don't even
know.
I don't. Bol. He's in Orlando, isn't he?
No, he's on Phoenix.
He's on Phoenix now. Okay,
yeah,
I guess Bol
is relying on the Kevin Durant 5 in those tough minutes.
They're gonna get destroyed. I already know.
He can sort of do that, but he's 35 years old. Like you can't. No, you're putting Kevin Durant, defensive anchor, 35 years old.
Like say you're in the finals against the Celtics, like KD at the 5 against KP. I don't want that.
Actually,
or what about Giannis against KD?
What about
or Jokic
Lopez or Jokic again? Yeah, or Anthony Davis.
I do think the Bucks are the only team in the league that can guard Jokic, and so for that reason only, I hope that they meet up in the finals. Brook Lopez, I think, is the only human on earth that can contain Jokic.
Yeah, and Giannis is a help side defender.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we were talking about earlier, Gabe. They could do that pretty well. Stick Brook on Giannis, and then just have stick Brook on Jokic and have Giannis roving.
Off Aaron Gordon, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but also there's no stopping Jokic, and he would eat Brook Lopez like a TV dinner. Like he's like if you judge it one-on-one, he's demolishing Brook Lopez every time.
I don't think so. Well, yeah, I do think he's advantage, but I think he's literally the best matchup Jokic
Dude,
can have
I
in the
remember,
world.
I remember
No one.
actually now it's coming back. Like there was a Bucks Nuggets game I watched last season, and there was like a couple possessions in a row where Jokic just like put Brook Lopez under the hoop and just scored, like limited the help because he literally just put him under the basket.
Yeah, I mean that's unstoppable.
Yeah, that's unstoppable. I mean, it'll be a fun series, though. But the Bucks do now have a rookie coach, so it'll be interesting to see how that impacts their abilities too. Griffin coming in from Toronto, so a ton of competitive teams this year have new coaches. The only real constant, I think, is Boston, right? Philly's got a new coach. Toronto, if you consider them a contender, has a new coach. Milwaukee has a new coach. Phoenix has a new coach. So lots of new coaches. Any other thoughts on the NBA or the Pistons before tomorrow's media day?
Nothing.
Nope.
Nothing? Yeah, well, tomorrow is the official, basically, start of the next season. We will have player interviews. We will have coach interviews. We will have new media day photos. It's coming, Pistons fans. 7 days from today, the Pistons face off against the aforementioned Phoenix Suns at Little Caesars Arena for their first postseason game or preseason game. So we will try to talk to you guys this week after media day. Hopefully, we'll get an update on Isaiah Livers. But until then, hope you enjoyed our third installment of the season previews with the bigs. If you haven't seen the other two with the wings and the guards, make sure to check that out so you're all up to date for media day tomorrow. But until next time, throw the Buffs on Detroit. The future is bright.